I'll take any questions from, as long as, bear in mind, this isn't about politics. This is about economics and economic theory and economic history. It's not about red or blue or any of that shit. I'm not interested, so don't ask me questions on politics. I'll take whatever question. Gentlemen there.
Do you think the Argentine currency currently is overvalued? Yea or nay? What effect would an overvalued currency have on GDP?
That's a very interesting question. I thank you for it. First of all, let's just...
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, of course I can. The gentleman there was saying, what impact will a falling currency or a gaining currency have on GDP and on an economy? In other words...
Currency currently valued
Yeah, okay. That's fine. Well, let's just have a little think. What is money? All right? What is money? And this isn't taught in schools. Money is not the piece of paper you hold in your hand, whether it's a dollar, a pound, a euro, a yen. It's not money, it's a credit note. It's a credit note printed by central banks, distributed by governments for you as a medium of exchange. Now, this is an interesting point. Let us just have a look at the United States dollar, which is the reserve currency of the world. So let's look at that rather than talk about smaller currencies, which are important and valuable, I know, but let's get an idea of what we're talking about. The dollar, which is in decline, let us just look at what happened in 1972 when Nixon took the United States off the dollar. Okay? In order, and this is quite true, you always get rid of gold. You get rid of your gold reserves if you want to fight a war. And you can trace that back to the Middle Ages. You can trace that back to Richard III in England. If you want to fight a war, the first thing you do is it uses up all your gold. Now, to fight the Vietnam War, what actually happened was that Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. It was no longer X bits of gold to $1 or vice versa. That stopped happening. We all know that. I'm not telling anybody here anything new. But what is, I think, interesting, when you let central bankers, bureaucrats and politicians take over that currency medium of exchange, what happens to it? It degrades. So in 1972, and I'm old enough to remember, of course, Nixon taking the dollar away from the gold standard, how much is that dollar worth in spending power today? I can tell you. It's worth 6 cents. So if you had a 1972 dollar today, it would buy you 6 cents. That's how degraded the dollar has become. Now, when it comes to, that's what happens when you go away from hard money, hard currency, call it what you like. Bits of paper. Is it a piece of paper, a dollar, a yen, or euro, or your Buenos Aires? It's meaningless. It's a scrap of paper. It's only worth something when your cab driver will accept it for a ride, or here behind the bar they will accept it for booze, in my case, or food in your case, perhaps, I don't know. That's how it works. But money is gold, and nothing else. Money is gold, and it's another quote, J.P. Morgan in 1912, only gold is money. Only gold is money. And if you look at the performance of gold in the last 25 years against anything you like, or S&P 500 and all the rest of it, you will see it shot up. Well, of course, it hasn't really shot up. The cost of the dollar has been degraded. The Yankee dollar is going down the hill. The price of gold hasn't actually gone up. And if you take nothing away from this evening, know that and know it well. And I know the tradition here is to make sure that you save, Argentina says, save for their old age in Yankee dollars. You know, they stuff away the Yankee dollars. Big mistake. Big mistake. Buy gold coins, and stash those away, because they will be worth, and there's an interesting thing that you might enjoy. Remember that you'll be familiar with the gold sovereign. The gold sovereign, which was instigated in 1817, 1818, after the Battle of Waterloo. We went back onto the gold standard because we had to fight wars and all the rest of it. Now, a gold sovereign will buy you bed and breakfast in a good hotel in London, Paris, Berlin, or New York today. today. And it will in 100 years' time. Because it's real undegradable money, because politicians can't print it. They can't cheat, they can't lie. There it is. And you're finishing up on your point, sir, if I may, on GDP. GDP. Does anybody really understand what GDP is? Anybody know here? Think they know? Anybody fancy a guy?
What?
GDP, gross domestic product.
Yeah, please explain that.
I'll explain it, because you hear a lot about GDP. GDP is the activity of money in an economy. It's a measure of activity. It isn't a measure of wealth or profit, it's a measure of activity. So let's say, for example, in the red light district of Buenos Aires, and the prostitutes were having an absolute field day, doing really well. They're actually making money hand over fist for some reason. That would increase GDP. Let's say the drug dealers in and around various countries, wherever, it doesn't matter whether it's Europe or here, were really going well. The price of drugs gone up and they were selling more and more drugs. That would increase GDP. If the government decided that they're going to go around and dig lots of holes in the road, then fill them up with earth again to keep everybody busy and working, that would increase GDP. GDP is bullshit, and it's always been bullshit, and it's there. And have you seen the bimbos on TV reading it? The tracker, the thing, the teleprinter they look at. GDP went up 2%. And you can see the bimbo doesn't know what she's talking about at all. If you actually stop, freeze everybody, excuse me, Miss Bimbo, explain to everybody what GDP is. She'd say, I've just bought a new handbag. Or if you did it to one of the blokes, he'd say, I've just got the absolute most amazing new car. Yeah. They don't know. And of course they rely on the fact that everybody watching TV hasn't a bloody clue either. So they go on, round it goes, but you know that the pound in your pocket and the dollar in your pocket isn't buying what it was. No matter what they say, oh, it's 2%, it's 3%. We all know that's not true, don't we? Every single housewife knows that her shopping basket every year has gone up. Not by 2% or 3%, it's a damn sight more than that. They know that. But what they do is they take things in or out of the basket. So mobile phones haven't gone up so much, so they take carrots and potatoes out and they put mobile phones in. They don't have your house, the value of your house, the cost of your house, isn't in the system, you see. So you're being conned all the time. This is the problem that you have. We don't have a free press, we don't have a mainstream media that understands economics at all. Least of all presidents and prime ministers. No clue at all.
Follow up. Gold was 2,000 in 1980. By 2000 it was 300. The stock market was up tenfold during that time period. Are you sure gold's always been the good thing to own?
Well, it depends on your program, doesn't it? Are you buying it for Christmas? Are you buying it for Easter? What are you buying it? Is it long-term strategic reserve, or is it something to make a buck? Now, if you want to make a buck, if you buy stocks and you get the right stocks, it's a good thing. And believe me, my original portfolio was made in equities in the 80s and the 90s. I made plenty of money in equities, but I get to a certain age now, I don't want to make any more money. I don't want to make a buck. I want to preserve what I've got. That's the job. And it's, as I say, it's not, gold isn't an investment, it's a preservation of wealth. Does it go up? Does it go down? Yes, it does. And the reason for that, perhaps for those of you, because it's a good question, is because most gold prices are based on paper trades. They don't take delivery of gold. They're not buying and selling gold, they're buying bits of paper, and there are 500 or 600 pieces of paper which are promissory notes saying that they own gold, but they don't own gold. Those days, ladies and gentlemen, are ending. They're ending now, which is why everybody is gambling on gold on the COMEX is taking delivery. They're not making a buck now. They're saying, no, I want to take delivery. Bring me my gold. And we've now seen in the last month or two, suddenly everybody's, where's the gold? Who's got the gold? And the gold is crossing the pond. It's coming from the Bank of England. It's run out of gold. It's run out of silver. It's going to the United States. And I think you'll find that when they do a serious audit of gold, you'll find it's not there. You'll find it's not there. you'll find it's been leased, got rid of. There's all sorts of complicated. I've no time to deal with it here. It's a very complicated procedure, but you'll find when they open the doors of Fort Knox, the gold will be there, but it won't belong to the United States. It will all have a tag on it. This is gold from Singapore. This is gold from this. This has been leased to the central banks. Who's buying gold in huge quantities at the moment? Central banks all across the world. I would suggest, and I used to work in this field for 50 years, if the central bankers who know where all the bodies are buried are buying gold, gold is the place to be. Gold is the place to be. Because they know so much shit that you don't know, it's unbelievable. Gentlemen here.
Yeah, to me, money is a store of value. The real thing is value. You know, I'll wash your car for one watermelon. And that's the exchange of value. So money, including gold, in my opinion, is a store of value, and it only has value if somebody else values it. Somebody else wants it. They're willing to exchange value for it. And to me, that's a better way of describing what's happening in a society if you consider the value that's being produced in society. And comment.
Well, that's right. I hope if you didn't catch us at the end, I don't know. Did you get that at the end? The gentleman here was talking about gold as being a store of value, and he's quite right. And the whole concept of money, and I've written it, I've bought one or two of my books, I'm not here to push books, but there's a whole chapter on what is money. It has to be a medium of exchange which is generally accepted for goods or services or a time preference. That is the game. That's the game of money, if you will. And of course you could go back and you would find, if you go back to the Roman Empire, you'd find the silver denarius was one of those. It was silver, and how they degraded that was putting alloy in it. They degraded, and the Diocletian Empire in Rome actually put alloy into the silver, so it wasn't pure silver. We've seen that before. But the thing is with gold, it's been money for 5,000 years. It's always had value. And when money or currency was linked to gold, so did that. I mean, I'm still old enough to remember the big £5 note in England. I promised to pay the bearer the sum in gold on demand. And the dollar was the same. That it actually, and the reason we did that was because people didn't want to lug bricks of gold all over the place. A promissory note was good, so you could draw it on London or you could draw it on New York, and that worked very well. And it only went wrong when the banks began to cheat. And can I quote another one? Henry IV, 1926, which I rather love. He said, if people understood how banks worked, they would never put any money in them.
So,
what's your view on Bitcoin, etc., etc.? It's been laying with its fingers and the birds recently.
Well,
no, okay, not Bitcoin. But
Crypto, yeah.
well, there is a crypto. There is a chapter written by an expert on this subject, on which I am not, in my book, who talks about these things. I believe, but wouldn't I, that if you're going to have something which I regard as hard money, real money, it has to have a fundamental value. Now, gold's been around for 5,000 years. Cryptocurrency's been around just for a few years. And I know some of the great cryptocurrency advocates, and they are very, very astute and clever and articulate people. But then so were the people that sold blue tulips, land in Louisiana, and all sorts of other things under the John Law administration in France. I'm an old man, I've seen it all before. Yes, I've held Bitcoin, I've made money out of Bitcoin. But I've got to an age now, I just selfishly want to hang on to what little I've got. And I'll go with gold. That's the fact, of course. It's interesting, isn't it? One of the great things that we know that can be done by the bogeyman, and we all know the big bogeyman is Putin, bollocks, but let's go there. There's all sorts of thermo pulses that he can do. What's going to happen to your Bitcoin when he flies a drone over and goes boom, boom? What's happened to your money? It's gone. You can't get at it. Wow. No, give me gold. Give me gold. Give me gold. But if you've made a lot of money out of Bitcoin, well done, and I applaud you, because a lot of the fundamentals of cryptocurrency are the same. It's the government, broadly speaking, the government can't fake it. But having said that, they can certainly stop you getting your hands back on it with a boom, 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 that's all gone. And if the government want crypto and they're going down that road, no. I'll stick in my little small holding in Yorkshire with my little gold coins, thank you very much. Which of course will then be drunk. My younger wife will drink the bloody lot. As Lord Salisbury knew she would.
Question about government involvement in your personal life. I guess the Austrian School of Economics says the least government, the less government involvement we have, the better. I remember when we had to start wearing seatbelts. And a lot of people that I knew said, I'm not wearing a damn seatbelt. I don't care what the government says. Yet, the government statistics said we could save 20,000 lives per year by making people wear seatbelts. Would the Austrian School of Economics say that's a bad thing, or would that be acceptable?
No, we would argue that that's a bad thing. I wear a seatbelt because I've seen the results of people who actually don't wear a seatbelt in crashes. And I would advocate everybody here wears a seatbelt. You know, I think that's a good thing. What I don't want is the man at the City Hall telling me to wear a seatbelt. Because I think that's the first step, isn't it? That's the first step, and then he tells you that something else is good for your health, and then something else is good for your health, and the next day he's running your life.
Yeah, but if you don't wear the seatbelt, you say, I've got my personal freedom, I'm not going to wear one, I'm in a crash, I go to the hospital, I have to pay for it. You know, we all
Yeah,
have
that's
to
fine.
pay for it.
Well, of course, you make a very good point, thank you.
Yes.
I believe that everybody should pay for their own medicine. I don't believe the state should have anything to do with paying for my doctor, my surgeon, or my medicine. I don't believe in that. The Austrian School, with an Austrian school, you make a very good point. Let me just elaborate a little bit on this. And I can only speak for the English economy, but it probably fits in with other economies as well, but certainly the English thing. I go in and fill up my car, all right? My car, it costs me £60 or £70 to fill up my car with petrol. If the tax wasn't on it, I could fill it for half that. I go to buy a saucepan, for example, a new saucepan. 20% of that is sales tax. We have all these taxes. I wake up in the morning, I have a property tax. You know, it's thousands of pounds a year. Now, my view is, what I'd like to see, tell me how you feel about this idea. I'd have a little card here, a little gold card, which would say, I want nothing at all from the government, nothing. And you've got to sign that off to say no, and you will get nothing. You'll get nothing at all. And I've got that. So let's put it this way. You go in and fill up your car with petrol. It's half the price. You wake up in the morning, you don't want anything from the government, so you're not paying £2,500 a year for your property tax. When you go and you want a pint of beer, which costs say £4 in England, a pint of beer £4, there's no tax on the beer. Your pint costs £2. I don't want national insurance. I don't want income tax because I don't want anything from the state. Now suddenly, and to pick up on the point that you made, which I think is a valid one, I think here's the point. Just think how much money you would be left at the end of the month from your paycheck. You don't need the government. You can then pay for your insurance, your hospital insurance, and your hospital insurance, one of the questions would be, do you drive without a seatbelt? And he would say yes. I say, well, in that case, your premium's double. And you still do that. But it's not the role of the man at the town hall. It's not the role of the city to say you should wear one or not. It's your insurance company, your automobile insurance company, should tell you that they will only do this if you do that.
But then most people would lie. They would say, yes, I wear a seatbelt. And then they would be in an accident. And then they go to the hospital, they've got a head injury, it costs $100,000.
No, think it through. Think it through. These injuries would show he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, wouldn't it? And they'd go, no, I'm not going to pay it. It's pretty obvious whether they're wearing a seat.
But in America, you can't turn someone away from emergency. You have to treat them. So they're going to get treated no matter what, and it's going to be paid for by everybody else.
Well, of course, that's Austrian school of economics. I believe that to be fundamentally wrong. So I don't believe that my neighbour is my responsibility. He is his own responsibility, his health is his own responsibility, his children are his own responsibility, but the difference is with Austrian school of economics, I would leave him so much more of his money to look after himself, and that's the difference.
And that's why I always said in American emergency rooms, if you're not willing to ask the person, do you have enough money to pay for it? Do you have insurance? If you don't have either one of those, there's a room over there, you can go die. And
Well,
that's it.
okay, let's just take that out. You'll find the greatest philanthropy was in the late 1900s, late 1800s and early 1900s in England. What were called the free hospitals, the London Free Hospital, the Manchester Free Hospital, and all these things. Because then when people get together and they say, I'm going to put into this charity for people who can't afford healthcare for whatever reason it may be, so that they will be treated. And before we had the National Health Service in England, everybody got treated, but they were treated by the free hospitals. It wasn't at the expense of their neighbour, it was at the expense of their neighbour's philanthropy, voluntary philanthropy, and that is your moral thing. And I'll just and add on that, before I come to you, if I may, the National Health Service in England. The National Health Service is paid for by, the original idea was you paid 2 shillings a week and a stamp or something like it. It was conceived in 1943, but it entitled you to health care for every family, for every person. Now, that's run by bureaucrats and politicians. There are 1.4 million people working for the National Health. 1.4 million, my wife used to work for the National Health years ago. 1.4 million people work for the National Health. Guess how many of those aren't doctors, surgeons, nurses?
Two-thirds.
No, sorry. Oh, well, you've got an Englishman.
95%.
You've got an Englishman.
I'm horrified.
It's absolutely madness. It's completely insane. And now we've got diversity officers, climate change officers. We've got everybody sucking at the tip. And did you know that a hospital administrator in the United Kingdom, a hospital administrator, earns twice as much as a theatre nurse for pushing
brain surgeon or somebody's eyes.
So don't leave the government to anything. Don't think I don't take your point, because you make a good point, that what with Austrian School of Economics you have to do is detached from what's gone before and what's happening now and what we've been told is a good idea. And if you think back, well, I'm assuming that some of you are here for some of the reasons I've been talking about. I know we've got Texan here, who is very light, Texas they're very light on income tax. And I've got friends in Texas, fully qualified nurses in England, or doctors who live in Texas for the simple reason that they can afford to live because the government's not taking all their money. Sorry, no, sir, you've got another question.
Yeah, I'd like to come back to seatbelts.
Okay.
I like seatbelts. I wear them all the time. My father did. He killed himself because of it. The thing about seatbelts is that if it hadn't been for Ralph Nader, I think primarily was the activist driver behind making it happen, would there ever be seatbelts? Would it have evolved in its own course, or would it just never be seatbelts at all?
Would there be seatbelts if it hadn't been for Ralph Nader? Well, of course there would.
Okay.
Because it saves lives, massively saved lives and injury, and particularly knee injuries.
And what about, we have no taxes though, I understand, the desire to have no taxes, but what about our roads and our bridges and our natural transportation? Who builds all of that if we have no tax at all?
Well, who built them before the taxman came along? They were built by the private sector, and you had tariffs, and you paid to go on, you paid a toll to go on the road. Now, but you make a very valid point here, because they are paid for out of fake road tax license. We pay a road tax fee. We are full of potholes. Our roads in the United Kingdom are a national disgrace, an international disgrace, because the government are responsible for it, and so it doesn't work. So they take their road tax from you, but they don't spend it on roads, do they? They spend it on their own index-linked pensions, don't they?
But we had the
Their
same.
first-class travel all over
Better
the globe.
to have roads, privately, roads and bridges and airports, have all that be privately.
That's how it used to work.
And we wouldn't worry
When
about
all
a lot
your
of
great railways and
corruption.
bridges came from the
I would
entrepreneurs.
worry about a bit of corruption if
Yeah.
that.
Well, I think we're all worried about corruption. What's the biggest corrupt organisation in the world? United States government.
Can I give an example from my institute? Like, Panamericana was privately done. Like, almost all the roads that you use, all the freeways and rutas, are done by private companies and they have tolls. The ones that were fully government funded and fully government, those are the ones that the corruption from the previous government. Roads to nowhere, bridges in the middle of nowhere, roads that just end in cliffs and people fall off of. And they have their cronies in the government and allocate $200 million for this project, pay it to one of their associates, and then it just disappeared.
You must
And
never
it was
think
never
you
built.
need the government.
And all that money they've kept.
You don't need the government. They think, oh, where would the roads come from? Where would the bridges come from? Don't buy it. Don't buy it. It's a con.
The argument that the government will provide, you can just drive 45 minutes in any direction and you'll have
When did you see a
non-potable water.
politician digging a hole in
The
the
highest taxes in the world.
But the interstate highways in America were from the Eisenhower era. I mean, Eisenhower built, by government funding, built all of the interstate highways. Now, I've always said, okay, let everybody pay for it. Okay, Montana, you've got 200,000 people up there. You raise your taxes to pay and support your highways, fine. But they take government money, they take federal money to support their highways. So, the last time the road tax was increased was in Bill Clinton's second. That was the last time the tax on gasoline was increased. So you can't expect to maintain these roads and bridges. We have bridges falling down, but nobody wants to pay tax. Nobody wants to pay for it. So, how do you resolve it?
You resolve it by giving people their own money. You could double, everybody around this neighborhood, we're living in the United States, if you took away half the taxes, most of the taxes, you would double your paycheck. Then, if you were living here, living there, and there would be a road fund, and you would put into it, and it would be built by private practice, which builds the roads today. As I say, you won't find a politician there digging the road.
No, of course.
No, he pays somebody, but en route to him paying somebody, en route to him paying somebody, some of it goes missing, doesn't it? Some of it goes missing.
Yeah, but
Most of it goes missing.
You say if we cut off our taxes, we could double our incomes. That's true. But my grandfather, my mother probably stayed out of poverty because of taxes we were all paid to support them. So, is that the kind of society you want in which I can live very well because I'm a multi-millionaire, but my parents weren't quite as wealthy. Quite as wealthy. And I've always said, well, that's okay. My mother drew a pension from Social Security for 30 years because she lived to be 96. And if we would all say, okay, let me sign a piece of paper that says, once I get my contributions plus a reasonable rate of return back from Social Security, then I'm happy. I won't take any more. I guarantee you, nobody will sign it. Nobody will sign it.
Yeah, you make a valid point, but of course, we can't have our cake and eat it.
Yeah,
but but if you think, it depends. You see, you sound to be like a philanthropist.
Philanthropist.
Yeah, I was.
I'm an oil man.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. But if you feel as you do, for old people not getting a square deal, not having enough money, you just say you're a very wealthy man. Write a check.
Yeah.
Write a check. Give them some of your money. Don't take any of my money, if you please, because I don't want to give that person any money, because I'm a nasty evil bastard.
That's what I said. All of these people are willing to sign a piece of paper to say, I get all of my money back from Social Security, my contributions, plus a reasonable rate of return, then I don't want to take anybody's money, then I'll be a socialist.
Well, that's the point I made earlier, wasn't it? It depends whether you think, and I came in, I'll finish on this if I may, I'll finish on it because you don't want too much of it. Listen, what you've got to understand is, do you genuinely believe that man at the town hall at City Hall can spend your money better than you? That's the key, that's the key. You do, but most people don't. So consequently, leave me alone, let's leave us all alone. I'll finish there if I may. I'm going to stand for another drink, so I'm happy to talk later. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research based, and I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I'll automatically share it with you. So, surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.